As it is to, get a breather on the water, it is also as urgent, if not more so, to take proper shelter in an event of a thunderstorm like this, Isaac.
Yeah, Ben, if we can take the tower camera again, just to show you that the weather is horrible here at the TV station. We are 2 miles or so from the GSP airport where 50-mile-per-hour winds were confirmed. We haven't heard of any damage just yet, as Ben mentioned, but again, you can see the backup on 85, and we don't know if that's weather related, if there's an accident there, or what's happening. But I do want to go back to Max 1 and show you that now that we're farther away from the radar, we're getting some of the same caliber winds, actually a little stronger than they were approaching the radar and moving through Greenville. So now we have at least 60-mile-per-hour winds being detected by the radar just above the ground, and they're between Lyman and Fairmont, moving down 29 here, right toward the Westgate Mall, right toward the city of Spartanburg, actually. So as we continue to watch how that evolves, Roebuck, Spartanburg, in and around the city limits there, just be aware that you have a fairly line of gusty storms capable of producing 50 or 60-mile-per-hour winds moving into the city of Spartanburg. Again, we're staying with it a little longer because, this is obviously very populated. Anxiety is high. We've had major flooding this week, so we certainly don't need this right now. And this is what we're watching. Again, no tornado warnings at all. We could see a brief spin up, and that's a possibility, but the main threat is heavy rain, lightning, and gusty winds, and in some cases hail. But in the upstate right now, I'm not concerned with hail at the moment as much as the damaging wind potential. So again, just around Fairmont, where 85 and 29 interchange right there, that's where the strongest pocket of wind is as it moves off to the east. Again, 85 right here, 26 right here, business 85 and through here as well. So very highly traveled roads normally. Obviously, we may be not seeing as much of travel today, but since it is a holiday weekend, we may be seeing some of that. All of this down here is high wind potential, yes, but we still don't see anything to support any sort of rotation. So that's some good news. No imminent signs of tornadoes, but plenty of lightning. And as Ben mentioned, the storms are over in Clemson and Easley, but it's still lightning and thundering with some light rain falling. But certainly the heaviest rain now is lining up from the Spartanburg, Polk County line right down to GSP, into Simpsonville, down to Anderson, Iva, and Starr, and then into far northeast Georgia, into parts of Hart and Elbert counties. Again, this line is moving eastward fairly quickly at about 40 miles per hour. And again, we are cautiously optimistic that once this line gets out of here, we're going to be done with severe weather for the rest of the afternoon. We can't guarantee it, but I think things are shaping up pretty well after this line of storms moves through, Ben.
Yeah, I think you're right, Isaac. I mean, we've had some of our long-range computer models indicate there could be a couple of stray showers or storms form on the backside of this. We're getting hints of that up in western North Carolina and Cherokee County. Those do not appear to be a threat at this time. And as you can see, much farther to the north and the west, where conditions aren't anywhere near as favorable as they are down here in the upstate northeast Georgia. So I think we can safely assume that those will not pose a threat for severe weather, but summertime in the Carolinas, northeast Georgia, those afternoon, evening thunderstorms, while a daily routine, sometimes they can be stronger than others.
Yeah, and the good news, Ben, in this workspace, we have a severe thunderstorm watch graphic somewhere. They did just cancel a few counties out of that severe thunderstorm watch. And I know it was just issued, but this was expected that we will start to see some counties dropped out of this severe thunderstorm watch. And again, we are seeing some of northeast Georgia be canceled, as well as Pickens and Oconee County have been canceled from the severe thunderstorm watch. So we're working on that graphic for you, but Franklin, as well as Stevens County, Rabun County, I believe, and Oconee and Pickens County in the upstate have been dropped from the severe thunderstorm watch. But the severe thunderstorm warnings do continue for areas along and in advance of this line of storms that's marching across the upstate, knocking on Spartanburg. And again, that's kind of the strongest part of the line, is areas near Fairmont, as we pointed out earlier. And this leading edge is almost to the city limits of Spartanburg. So if we see any sort of high wind potential, that's where it's highest, is up next there, Ben, is into the city limits of Spartanburg.
Yes.
And we're watching that closely, of course. And we are also watching the severe thunderstorm watch
It was just canceled for Oconee and Pickens County in the upstate, and Franklin, Habersham, Rabun, and Stevens County in northeast Georgia.
Okay,
So
I'm not sure why that hasn't dropped off yet. But
yep, it has not populated in our system yet. But basically, if the line has moved past you, you're in the clear of severe weather. But again, there's still thunder and lightning. So again, I can't stress this enough. If for the lake areas, Kiwi, Jocassee, Hartwell, yeah, if there's still thunder and lightning, you still need to be in shelter. Don't worry. Like, this will be out of here, and we'll be, home free for the rest of the evening, or with the exception of a stray shower or two. But as you can see, city of Spartanburg, that is where the severe weather is right now. That's where damaging winds are essentially happening in spots anyway. As you can see, that's just closing in on downtown. So this is your last chance in Spartanburg to get inside. I know it's a Friday afternoon. We're waiting for the weekend, but still, this is the time to get into some sort of sturdy shelter. Not a mobile home, but some sort of sturdy shelter, ideally away from windows. Not necessarily in a basement, but lower floor certainly doesn't help, as trees are going to be a lot more flimsy today, as the ground they're sitting on is very saturated. It is excessively saturated to the point where it's more possible for those trees to fall over. So that is a warning definitely to heed this afternoon, as we are monitoring a line of thunderstorms, the entirety of it being severe. Monitoring the hail farther south as well. If we turn our attention to those places in northeast Georgia, it was that cell that had the most promise of producing hail. That was definitely the storm that we were most concerned with in terms of hail and the potential for spinning up as a brief tornado, but we have yet to see that, which obviously is good news. But in the meantime, we are not seeing any indication of that. I also want to monitor that hail. As I mentioned, looks like the hail core in that storm has gone down a little bit, which is encouraging, obviously. Also would predicate that it would not be necessarily as likely to spin up a tornado, but obviously we cannot make that assumption at this point. So looking at the base velocity, I just want to take a look at some of these cells. Not seeing any couplets.
We did actually get a new severe thunderstorm warning for parts of the foothills up there. It looks like Rutherford, as well as Cleveland counties in North Carolina, Polk, Cherokee, Lawrence, Union, Spartanburg. So that apparently is a fairly large warning that was just issued. You can see it right there, and it's basically in advance of this line of storms that the strongest part of the wind is moving into Spartanburg now, but you can see Union, most of Union County included in this, most of Cherokee County included in the severe thunderstorm warning as well. All of Cherokee County, Gaffney obviously there, and then the extreme eastern part of Polk County, southern Rutherford County as well. And again, the wall of wind is approaching the city of Spartanburg, and again, it's encouraging that we haven't seen or heard of any damage reports just yet, but with the weakened infrastructure, with the strong wind signatures we're seeing, I still think that we have pretty high potential to see some trees go down in the next hour or so as this line moves through. 40-mile-per-hour winds. Westgate Mall, you have 1 minute there. So Spartanburg, about 5 more minutes. Zion Hill, Packlet, all these areas off to the east. Jonesville included, Pauline, Cowpens, Mayo, Gaffney, Blacksburg, all of Union County, north of the city of Union in this warning as well. So again, encouraging that we haven't had any damage reports just yet. And again, no formal tornado warning. It's coming up on 3 o'clock. And we'll continue to stay with you a little longer here as this line of storms marches on off to the east. And again, no tornado warnings. Great news, but we know anxiety is high, and we know that we have seen a lot of flooding and a lot of issues this week in general, and certainly the last thing we need is more severe weather to move through.
Absolutely, yes. This is via MPing on the Radar Scope app. A couple of MPing reports of some minor wind damage. It just says lawn furniture or trash cans displaced, along with small twigs being broken. The same can be said around western Spartanburg County near Duncan, a similar report. So that would be indicative of about 45 to 55 mile-per-hour wind gusts.
And hopefully that's all we hear of today.
Yeah, and those are not via National Weather Service chat. Those are via MPing reports, which are usually reliable, but nothing too serious as of now. But that radar signature certainly looks serious in its own regard in terms of damaging straight-line winds. Also, upon further diagnosis of the radar, there is still no indication of any couplets. When you see the green meet the red, that's sometimes indicative of rotating thunderstorm, which it can happen to varying degrees, but we're not really seeing any of that at the time. But as you can see, some very bright reds. That's indicative of very strong winds moving away from the radar. And if we take a look at a specific wind report, or I should say a wind estimate, that one particular is 44 miles per hour. This one is 46 miles per hour, and farther south about 40. So about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So it looks like it's gone down a little bit, those estimated winds, but it still looks strong enough as a line to where the National Weather Service is likely not going to let up much anytime soon on these warnings, unless we see these cores go down or anything related. That is something that we'll have to evaluate at a later time. I'll bring back up the traditional radar, and we have a lot of thunder and lightning. That's one of the biggest changes I've noticed with the traditional radar. Lots of thunder and lightning with this cell, just approaching Fountain Inn. And I actually would like to take a closer look at that because there appears to be a pretty solid Boeing segment with that part of the line of storms just moving through Simpsonville. And this is also one of the parts of the line that just had some of that minor wind damage reported, just in the form of...
Speaking of damage, we have fence sections blown down, so no tree damage yet. But this is outside of Paris Mountain, the first trained spotter report of some wind damage. That's on the northwest side of Greenville, of course, as that line moved through about 20 minutes ago. So again, hopefully we don't hear of more of these, but certainly we know that the wind was high as it moved through.
Oh, yes, and that matches up pretty well with where that very strong wind signature was when that line moved through. It was basically the northern part of Greenville, between about downtown Greenville and Travelers Rest. Also want to do a storm track on this part of the cell. This is moving from Simpsonville east into Spartanburg and extreme northern Lawrence County. It'll be in Great Court at 303, 313 in Kilgore, 314 in Enoree, 321 in Tylersville, and 328 in Cross Keys. This is for the main threat of damaging wind. In addition, we have some pretty serious thunder and lightning with this, and this is probably the most lightning we've seen all afternoon. So some of the wind signatures might indicate that they are, still very solid, but have weakened a little bit. But in terms of the amount of thunder and lightning, and based on how these cores, that's what I'm looking at right now, the greens usually indicate storm isn't very strong, but in terms of this, we have plenty of greens, some yellows, and even some orange and reds, which means that the core of the storm is still very solid. But the thing is, a core doesn't necessarily have to be solid for it to produce damaging wind. And so the fact that our wind signatures are coming in still fairly strong, it's still definitely staying together fairly solidly. And as you can see, I wanted to look at this because this storm near Fountain Inn, the one with a lot of thunder and lightning, I just wanted to see how its core was. Sometimes when you see an uptick in lightning very rapidly, usually that's an indication that its core is strengthening. It looks like the core is still about what it has been, but again, lots and lots of thunder and lightning. We can definitely hear it here at the station as that continues moving east at 40 to 45 miles per hour. So we continue to monitor this. That looks like where the most thunder and lightning is as it approaches Great Court from the west, moving still very quickly. And Spartanburg, this storm is right on top of you. This is where we had reports of about 50 to 55 mile per hour winds just shortly before at the Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport. That storm is currently over Spartanburg. So this storm has a history of producing verified wind gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour. So hopefully you are inside. Hopefully you have noticed the dark sky and have heard the lightning and thunder. Sometimes, especially in the summertime, those storms can sneak up on us. And if we're outside, whether it be for leisure or for business, it is obviously a very quick moving storm. So hopefully you noticed and you moved inside very rapidly.
Yeah, for sure, because Spartanburg right now getting the thick of it, and it's moving just off to the east here toward Pauline and Packlet, and that's where the strongest area of wind is currently being estimated by the radar. And you can see that that also will be including Gaffney and Union. But maybe just pull it back to the wide view for a second, because we like to give all clears when we can, and basically from Greenville westward into Clemson, Easley, most of western North Carolina, we are basically, all been circling right here, with the exception of far southern Hart and Elbert counties, all clear in North Georgia. Pickens, Oconee, the northern half of Anderson County, all clear. The northwest half of Greenville from downtown northward to TR westward, things are looking much better. Off to the east, we continue to have this line of storms move through. And again, pockets of wind damage are starting to roll into our newsroom. I just talked to our assignment manager, and there's apparently a separate report in TR of some potential tree damage. So we'll be checking that out as well. And again, just the most encouraging thing in all of this threatening weather that we're dealing with is that the line of storms is zipping along. And so we are going to watch for any flood concerns, but since the storms are moving fast enough, hopefully we can escape this without a dual threat for flooding as well as high winds. But certainly speaking, we'll be watching how this storm system, evolves over the next hour or so. Really, I think, by 4, 5 o'clock at the latest, I think this line of storms will be out of here, and we probably won't have any more severe weather concerns the rest of the night. So this is some encouraging news to see, despite the fact that Ben's mentioning lots of lightning, lots of thunder. Weather is kind of rolling through in the afternoon rush on getting a holiday weekend or long weekend started for you, and it's just not the best timing, of course. But as we watch Spartanburg again out toward Pauline and Packlet, I still think that is kind of the best wind signature that we're watching and seeing on radar. And we're still pretty close to the radar beam, so still looking at winds of about 60 miles per hour being seen here along the leading edge, especially just east of Spartanburg. It looks like some brighter pink showing up there, and Ben will query those, and you can see that. We also query roads too.
Yes.
So just east of Spartanburg, right there into 63 miles per hour. Remember, to be severe, it's 58. So that's why we have a severe thunderstorm warning. Where you see yellow right here, that's a severe thunderstorm warning, which means that these winds will certainly continue to have the potential to be stronger than 58 miles per hour. So as I mentioned earlier, Wilkinsville and Cowpens, Pauline, Packlet, Jonesville, Gaffney, all included. But it does look like this very strongest part of the wind line there is just east of Spartanburg, moving eastward fairly rapidly, and again about 40 miles per hour. So again, that is some fantastic news in terms of these storms aren't creeping along, because if they were, we would have significant flooding issues because we've seen so much rain this week. I lost count of the rain total. I know GSP Airport saw at least 7 inches of rain, if not more, throughout this week. So the last thing we need is slow-moving storms, which we don't have, so that's good. But again, Whitestone, Packlet, Zion Hill, all these areas right here in far eastern Spartanburg County, it looks like that's where the strongest wind is being seen on radar at the moment. And again, we haven't heard of widespread damage just yet, but we are starting to hear of some damage reports trickling into the newsroom and to the Weather Service chat. And we'll just kind of see. Hopefully the damage situation remains isolated, but with lines of storms like this, certainly we'll have to be mindful of that.
Absolutely, Isaac. Just tracking this part of the storm, that bright red / tan color that you see right over Ben Avon, it's that place where the strongest winds are possible, and these winds have been verified. As Isaac just said, we've been getting reports of damage into our newsroom. We've also had a couple of verified measures of wind gust here in the past few minutes, topping 50, almost nearing 60 miles per hour, and that's more than enough to knock over some trees given our current circumstances. As Isaac just mentioned, that we've had substantial wind gusts, a substantial rain, upwards of 6 to 7 inches in some spots, including the GSP Airport. So that just makes it all the more easy for trees to topple over. It doesn't take as much wind when the ground that those trees are sitting on is all the more weaker and more flimsy for the trees' sake. So I'm tracking the storm to the east at 40 miles per hour. Goucher at 324, 329 it'll be in Asbury, and 337 in Sarah. That's it's around the Union and Cherokee County line. So just those communities, that's where we're noticing the strongest winds associated with this line. Also, not too far behind that, we have some similarly strong winds in places like Cowpens, heading east into Thickerty and western portions of Cherokee County. So if you live in the city of Gaffney, I would definitely take the storm seriously. I mean, you should take all severe thunderstorm warnings seriously, but I also want to track this part of the storm to the east at 40 miles per hour, as it's likely going to impact communities like Gaffney. I'll zoom out a little bit more just so I can get the right speed onto the thunderstorm. But yeah, it's this area right here, right over Cowpens. So yeah, folks in Cowpens, hunker down if you aren't already. And as we move that storm to the east at about 40 miles per hour or so, that'll be in Thickerty at 316. That's on the western side of Cherokee County. 327 in Draytonville, 332 in Cherokee Falls, and 340 in Kings Creek. But Gaffney, you're basically a part of that. As you can see, it might be a little bit farther south of you, but any part of the city of Gaffney, I mean, this is too close to call. I mean, I would definitely take this seriously to the point where it is just it's just west of you, and I would definitely be inside. I mean, if you're at work and you're in a safe place, great. You don't really have to do anything. But if you're outside or know someone who is, definitely give them a heads up if they don't have weather alerts sent to their phones, which most of us do, but some do not, and that's what we're watching out for this afternoon is a line of severe
actually,
thunderstorms.
if you look at the leading edge of this into western Cherokee County, looks like like the strongest winds now passing over Cowpens and now riding up I-85 to Gaffney. So I just queried that off screen, and it looked like that right in there was about 70 miles per hour, or very, very close to it, 69. So this part of the line is likely to produce some wind damage in and around Thickety up to 85, pressing eastward toward the city of Gaffney. So we are starting to hear a little bit more of tree damage reports. Also, Tigerville was mentioned by the Weather Service as potentially some tree damage in that part of the county as well, back in Greenville. And now the same segment of the storm is shifting eastward again rapidly, heading toward the Cherokee County area now. It's crossed over the county line, and US 29 is right here, just north of there to 85. Very strong winds continue to be moving on through there. And again, radar's estimating them of close to 70 miles per hour. And this potential part of the strongest wind is going to be moving right up 85 toward Gaffney. So if you know anybody trying to travel around Gaffney or get to Gaffney from Spartanburg, for example, you may want to just say, let's wait a little while longer, because again, the good news is that this line of storms is booking it to the east, and we will not have to worry about this all night. This is not going to be an all-nighter. This is not going to be anything to, you know, worry with for more than about another 90 minutes or so, and that's going to be about it. You can see that the warning also includes Blacksburg as well, but again, the strongest part of the line is just crossing over parts of Spartanburg County, and it's moving off to the north and east at, again, about 35 to 40 miles per hour. So again, moving very quickly. Let's head northward really quickly and check out North Carolina. I was actually watching a part of this Rutherford County situation. There was some broad rotation earlier, but it looks like strong winds rushing out now southeast of Forest City, and that's going to be impacting Boiling Springs of Cleveland County, North Carolina, in the next few minutes. But you can just see your kind of eyes are drawn to the brighter colors here in this map, and that's where the strongest wind is. And with new radar technology, we can show you exactly where those are, and you can just kind of see them down the line, whereas into parts of northern Lawrence County, they're not as severe, or they don't look as bad. So you can see down into right through Pauline and Woodruff, yes, but then once you cross over into northern Lawrence County, you don't see as much pink showing up. So we can assume that the winds maybe not quite as strong there. So any bit of good news, we always love to tell you. So that's the reason we're just kind of staying with you a little bit longer, is because of the fact that we do have these damage reports starting to come in with this wavy line of storms bin rolling through.
That's right. Noticing some broad rotation with this part of the line near Woodruff, South Carolina. I don't think it's enough to warrant a tornado warning, but still a severe thunderstorm warning on it. And the National Weather Service, observing the fact that there's enough low-level wind shear, is adamant on indicating that tornadoes are possible with any severe thunderstorms, brief ones embedded within the line. But yeah, just broad rotation for now, but we'll let you know if that changes. But the primary threat right now is for damaging wind, and that's just approaching Gaffney. So if you're in Gaffney, that is where you're probably going to experience damaging winds next. And this is the strongest winds we're noticing in the line. Notice it gets weaker as you move farther south, but this is where we're noticing the maximum winds associated with this line. So I want to track this once again to the east at about 40 miles per hour, as that's been the general speed of these storms so far today. And I'll get the path for you, just because these storms are moving pretty quickly, so sometimes you have to zoom out a little bit to get the right speed in of the storm. So Draytonville at 322, Cherokee Falls at 327, and 338 in Smyrna. But basically, Gaffney, you're in line with this storm. So for some reason, our system always has trouble picking up Gaffney. But either way, it's got Gaffney Peach, but Gaffney right around there, just north of Draytonville, that is where we're going to likely be having 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. And upon latest scan, the estimated wind speeds of this cell right here, I'm going to go ahead and estimate that once again for you. Still about 70 mile per hour winds associated with this. And, you combine that with the fact that we've had so much rain this week, that is more than enough wind to do some damage in terms of knocking trees down and potentially some power lines. So that is where we're most concerned with this line. Still some lingering strong winds in and around Cowpens, right between Cowpens and Thickety, right along the Spartanburg-Cherokee County line. Some 68 mile per hour estimated winds being picked up on radar there. So that little triangle from Cowpens to Goucher to Thickety, that is where we have the strongest winds right now, and they're moving directly toward Gaffney, or at least the southern end of Gaffney that we're noticing on radar. So that is something we will continue to monitor here. Notice the new scan of that picking up on that line just to the west of Gaffney. So this is just approaching the Gaffney Peach along I-85. I will say that the strongest winds are south of I-85, which is essentially where Gaffney is. The Peach a little bit farther north toward the interstate, but the strongest part of this storm is moving right toward Gaffney, essentially. So just be sure to get inside some sort of a sturdy shelter, preferably away from windows in terms of these straight line winds. Yeah, just being inside, that's the most important part of taking shelter with these thunderstorms. Not a full-on tornado warning, but still enough wind with this to where it could potentially produce similar damage to some tornadoes. So that is why we are taking this seriously this afternoon. The wind's not looking quite as severe elsewhere, but that is something we will continue to monitor. Also want to keep track of some hail with this storm. We've had a fair amount of hail with this storm really quickly. It was mainly this storm with in respect to Elbert County, Georgia, which looks like that core has gone down a bit. So right now I would say the biggest threat for any thunderstorms moving through would be damaging winds, Isaac.
Yeah, and if you were watching 30 minutes ago, we had these colors up here in the pink shading area in Elbert County, and they're not there anymore, down on the lower end. So hail is increasingly becoming a non-factor, and just gusty winds. And Ben mentioned it great. Really, the only part of the line here now that looks most windy is right into Gaffney, and there is a strong signature of damaging wind coming into Gaffney now, and maybe we'll query that brighter pink there, and I'm probably up to 70. So, and again, remember, we're increasing the radar beam level, so these might be sampling a little bit higher in the air, which it is, but still, we have seen these numbers stay very steady from when it was in Pickens County all the way through Greenville and Spartanburg, and now we're into Cherokee County now, and Gaffney sits right here. The outlet mall is right there, and that's where the strongest wind is, basically passing a little south of the outlet mall, perhaps toward the city limits of Gaffney. And it looks like we 150 and 105 right in through here. And again, the strongest wind signature is just a couple of miles outside of Gaffney. And remember, we are getting radar scans about every 3 minutes, but still, this is moving very quickly. So anybody in and around Gaffney, again, just kind of seek your shelter in the center of the home and get away from windows. Let's not be upstairs. Treat it almost like a tornado warning, because again, we have heard of some trees coming down already, and it only takes one tree to fall on your home to start to cause some issues. So again, as we continue to watch this particular line of storms, we still are looking at decent potential of 70-mile-per-hour winds moving into the city of Gaffney. And again, this is going to be moving east, so Draytonville, some of the smaller towns outside of Gaffney, Blacksburg up there closer to the state line, also included in the warning, and Wilkinsville down 105 right there as well. But you can just see, maybe we can zoom it out a little bit here and just show you that there's that pocket of wind there, and maybe another one near Packlet, and that's about it. I say about it. I mean, we are watching closely, the wind patterns across the region here, but it certainly looks like the only two spots we're most concerned with at the moment are out here at Pauline and Packlet, and perhaps into the Gaffney region of Cherokee County. Draytonville, Wilkinsville, in and around the city limits of Gaffney certainly need to just be kind of away from windows on the lowest floor sort of thing, because we do have that potential bin of 60 to 70-mile-per-hour winds moving through.
Absolutely, and there are other parts of this line that are now starting to look a bit healthier, which is obviously not good news, but definitely necessary news. Mainly these winds just to the west of West Springs. That's just on the Spartanburg and Union County line. Those winds have certainly increased. We're also noticing some winds just east of Woodruff, about to cross over I-26 in Spartanburg County, that have picked up a little bit in speed. So this line is still holding together very healthily. As you can see, some broad rotation being indicated outside of the city of Lawrence. Nothing of real high tornadic concern. Noticing similar thing happening around Elbert County. This is also where we had the hail core of that storm, but that core has certainly gotten a little less healthy, and so has the broad rotation with it. Still a little bit there in Elbert County, but not to the point where it'd be tight enough to produce a spin-up tornado. But again, as we've been saying, Gaffney, storm is right upon you, especially the south side of town. This is where we have some of the strongest winds. It's crossing over Highway 18 at this point, and the intersection of Highway 18 and 105, just west of Draytonville. So this is where it's going, and this is where it is. So again, very, very strong damaging winds happening around Beach Street on the east side of Gaffney. That is where we have potentially 70-mile-per-hour winds. Granted, again, it is a little bit being detected a little bit farther off the ground, but still, that's a solid enough radar signature to warrant a severe thunderstorm warning.
I'm trying to comb through our email too, Ben, and one of our promotions producers has sent us some video of a tree on Highway 290 in Spartanburg County on the 900 block of Highway 290 in Spartanburg. So that just leads to some more credence. Maybe we can zoom this out a little bit. And obviously we're watching Gaffney now, but this is the same system that moved through Spartanburg. So Highway 290, the 900 block of that, I just saw some video that our promotions producer sent in, and the tree is across the road and blocking the road. So again, we don't know if the core of the strongest winds caused that, or if it was just a lower wind threshold and it's because we've had so much rain. One way or another, the tree is down and it's causing issues. And so we have a couple of pockets of stronger wind now. One that we've been talking about in Gaffney, and Ben mentioned there's a second one in southern Spartanburg County close to Woodruff, and also actually closer to Pauline as well. So you can see this bright shading of pink between West Springs and Pauline. That's moving eastward toward Jonesville. So Jonesville, your spot there could certainly see some stronger winds move through. Trees likely, or at least possible, to come down. And then one final batch of strong wind looks like it's moving through right over I-26 right there, and it doesn't seem to line up with everything else, but I actually looked at the radar and there does appear to be some validity to that particular part of the strong wind. So along and east of 26 in Spartanburg County, south of 85, really toward the Union County line, there are a couple of pockets here of some stronger wind. And you know, the good news again with the lines like this is that we can see it with radar. We can see where some of the stronger pockets of wind are located, and we can kind of maybe pinpoint where the strongest wind potential will be, the strongest threat for trees and power lines coming down. And I did actually see our email system too coming in, and the last time I looked at it was about 1,500 or so people without power, and hopefully that number doesn't go up too much, but we certainly have seen some power outages as a result of this weather moving through. And as a result, as a reminder, if you do lose power and you were watching us on television, we are streaming to our Fox Carolina News app. You can watch any of our live coverage inside the app as well. And so again, just east of Woodruff, approaching the south side of Pauline, there's a strong pocket of wind there. And then toward Jonesville, looks like we have some stronger winds there. And then finally up into Gaffney, this right here certainly looks very strong, and it is between Gaffney and Blacksburg at the moment. And it's certainly 72. So again, radar beams getting a little higher as the storms move east, but the storms are not getting any weaker. So that we can confirm for sure. So strong winds certainly moving through Gaffney and up toward Blacksburg. And again, we're about to hand this off to Charlotte shortly. There's the county line of Chester County. And once we get these storms out of here, we're going to be fine. So again, Ben has got the exact track on those strongest winds, over 70 miles per hour possible. Caston Crossroads, Bethany, and Clover, and some of these are actually in Chester County, but in and around Blacksburg, that's the next populated town, city in the path of this particular strong area of wind. And again, radar estimating about 70 miles per hour, Ben.
Yes, and just want to pass along, the National Weather Service is monitoring a cell in southern Spartanburg County. They indicated that they were indicating that if there were a couple more scans of this Spartanburg County storm, which is producing a hefty amount of damaging winds, they were also looking at some broad rotation with it. Right now, based on the velocity I'm seeing on radar, I don't see that personally, but that is something the National Weather Service noticed a few scans ago. Obviously, when you're doing continuous coverage and we're looking at different things, sometimes you can't see every single additional scan, every single scan, but the folks at the National Weather Service have a person in charge that literally monitors every scan.
And that person is certainly very good with communicating. It's one of the best they've got. And we certainly, I think I saw something a couple of scans ago too, but it doesn't look, as you mentioned, as intense as it was. But that's, you know, with lines like this that get, for lack of a better term, wavy, kinky, whatever you want to call it, you have to watch them closely. Now, we did get a new warning band, a severe thunderstorm warning for the southern upstate. So if we want to jog the radar down here, this is for Abbeville as well as Greenwood counties, and this is for what apparently is a strengthening part of the line, and this is going until 4:15 for Abbeville County as well as Greenwood County. And basically this includes the city of Greenwood westward into Abbeville, right down Highway 72 toward the western side of Abbeville. And again, strong indications of some hail and high winds there as that storm moves to the east. And again, I know we've been talking about Spartanburg and Cherokee counties recently, and it's because they have kind of stolen the show just a bit. The southern end of the line was weakening. It does look like that this part of the line is strengthening, and that can happen because basically what we see is the southern part of the line has the most access to the best air, if that makes sense. So the warmest and most humid air is closest to this part of the line, and so that's one of the reasons perhaps we're seeing some regeneration of this activity. And again, farther up to the north, you can actually see, remember just a few minutes ago, Ben, we said this at the bottom of the scale. Now it's creeping back up to the top. So looks like a large hail core may be developing just east of Lounsville and south of Lake Secession, moving right toward Abbeville. And again, this might be more of a situation of a large hail threat versus a damaging wind potential, but still a severe thunderstorm warning continues now for Abbeville and Greenwood County until 4:15. So another 45 minutes or so. This storm is moving eastward at about 40 miles per hour.
I think 30 to 35 on this one.
So it's this part of the line a little slower perhaps, and the northern part of the line is closest to the parent system, and it's got a little more energy to it, so it's moving faster. So Miller's Mill, Central Shiloh, Abbeville, you're in the path of a potential hail-producing thunderstorm. Meanwhile, we've got those windstorms up into parts of Spartanburg and Cherokee counties, Ben. So we'll kind of watch this together, and you can just kind of see those bright colors still sticking out up there. And it looks like this might be broadly rotating. We always get a little nervous when we see the greens and the reds, but what we see here is there's no green. So I don't really see any rotation, but I do see very strong winds approaching Blacksburg, and it is likely that those winds are on top of Blacksburg at the moment. In fact, Ben, maybe if you can change the tilt of this velocity down to 0.2, and that will get us on the sail scan.
Yep, this is the 0.2 degree.
Okay, so this is the 0.2. So this is the fastest radar data that we can show you. And again, if you clear that right there, I'd imagine it is closer to 75 miles per hour potentially. And again, remember, the radar beam is getting up higher, and we're almost at 80 miles per hour here. So again, remember, the radar beam is about, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500 feet up at this point. So this is the radar telling us that there's almost 80 mile per hour winds, 1,500 feet. Are they that strong at the surface? We hope not. But since we've had some damage reports with this line, we have to assume that they are. So for lack of a better, for course of least regret, I should say, I would certainly think about going to shelter, at least getting inside, getting away from windows, lower level, Ben, in Blacksburg.
Right, yeah, it's not quite the same as a tornado warning, the way you would take shelter, but a lot of similarities, though. The most important thing is in an indoor shelter, an indoor sturdy shelter. That's the most important thing. Ideally, you'd be on a lower floor, away from windows, things like that. But yeah, if you're in Blacksburg right now, hopefully you have done that and taken that course of action to moving indoors, because this storm has been producing some pretty hefty winds. We're starting to get some damage reports in and around Greenville and Spartanburg from when this line moved through, which definitely verify the strength of these winds associated with these storms, which have been estimated on radar, but they have been confirmed to have done some damage. And again, as time goes by, we'll have a better idea of the amount of damage it produces. Also want to key in on this storm. This has been a recently developing part of the line in terms of the strength of wind, and I would like to estimate how strong those winds are right around West Springs, as that's tracking very quickly. Yep, still around 70-mile-per-hour winds just east of West Springs, and that's tracking very quickly to the east at 40 miles per hour. So places like Union, this might skirt you on the north side of town, but in terms of downtown Union, odds are the brunt of this would likely miss you to the north, but not by much. If you're in the city of Union, I mean, there's still lightning and thunder, so hopefully you've gone inside, or if you know anyone who is working outside or maybe doing some early celebrating of the holiday weekend, maybe notify them if they, sometimes though there can be some bad cell receptions in some of those, Lakeland areas or surrounding areas, but yeah, just have a way of, alerting them that there is a severe thunderstorm headed their way, Isaac.
For sure, yeah. So let's go back to Cherokee County really quickly. I had a chance to check a couple of things, and Weather Service is watching this closely for a tornado warning. So I know I mentioned there's no green in this just yet, but basically what happens is we have such strong wind rushing out in one direction, sometimes speed shear. I don't want to bore you with science, but basically this is potentially rotating, and they are close potentially to issuing a warning.
I think they are about to.
Okay, so yeah, so we might be issuing a tornado. Well, we aren't going to do that, but we could be seeing a tornado. There it is right there. So now we have a tornado warning for Cherokee County and parts of Chester County in South Carolina and parts of Cleveland County as well. So this is going to be our first one of the day. This is a now tornado warned storm in the city of Blacksburg, moving east and northeast at about 40 miles per hour. And again, let's go in a little bit tighter, Ben, and show you kind of the Kings Creek also included in this, as well as Grover. I know our signal is still kind of sparse in and out here, in Chester County as well as Cleveland County belong to the Charlotte Metro TV market, but just southeast of the city of Blacksburg on Highway 5, there is increasing chances of a spin-up tornado occurring as this particular part of the line is moving and accelerating out just a little bit to the north and east. So again, Ben plotting the track here, 40-mile-per-hour track, and Kings Crossroads down there, Blacksburg, still wants you sheltered. Now this is a tornado warning, so we want you to seek shelter, small room, lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. Again, this is in the far northeastern part of Cherokee County, and transferring over into parts of Chester and Cleveland counties as well. But Crowders, Clover, and Bethany, these are some of these areas in Chester County. So Ben, let's maybe just zoom in just to our part of the world here in Cherokee County, and Oak Grove Road, Highway 5, up here into Battleground Drive. Again, this is very, very potentially rural Cherokee County, but I-85 included here. So I believe the Blacksburg exit is mile marker 106, and so anything from 106 on to the North Carolina state line, nobody should be on 85 at this point, because it certainly looks like that we have a ongoing tornado or developing tornado very close to Oak Grove Road and Highway 5 moving east. And we just got our new sales scan here, so we'll just kind of follow this closely. And now it's just a little south of Grover. It still looks like it's south of 85, moving north and east at, again, at about 40 miles per hour. So Kings Creek still wants you sheltered, still wants you to be on that lowest floor. We still don't want you to be in a mobile home. We don't want you to be in a car. We want you to be in that lowest floor, bathroom, closet sort of thing, and away from windows, as many walls as between you and the outside as possible. Again, this potential tornado now is pressing east of Blacksburg, but we don't want to give Blacksburg the all clear yet. It's just a little too close to call before we can completely all clear you in Blacksburg. But Grover and transferring on out here into parts of, I believe that's Gaston County too, Ben?
Yes.
And Chester County. So Cleveland, and here's some tornado safety reminders. As I mentioned, lowest floor, away from windows, the hallway, bathroom, closet, the hallway there is kind of the best chance to potentially surviving a tornado. And in the event that debris gets lofted, which we don't see that on radar just yet, we always want you to have bicycle helmets for yourself and the kids. It seems silly, but we have seen research to suggest that if people had had some sort of head protection, they might have survived. And again, this is not a day where we're going to have massive tornadoes on the ground. This is not going to be like Easter, where we have EF3s touching down today. This is not the same setup. But again, it only takes one EF0 tornado coming down your street, your road, and it's your problem. And that's why we're here for you, to let you know what we're watching. And again, the reason we've been with you now in over an hour for severe thunderstorm warnings, and now we have a tornado warning for parts of Cherokee County, looks like southern Gaston County, and Chester counties. I believe I called Cleveland there. That's Gaston County for sure.
Yeah.
And the strongest part of the tornado now is very close to King's Crossroads, and it's moving northeast. And again, Battleground Drive right there that crosses over into Chester County, as well as 85 right there. Again, Blacksburg exit, I think, is 106. Heading northward into Cleveland and Gaston counties. And again, the good news is that this tornado signature is going to be in Chester County momentarily. So the tornado concern for Cherokee County is about to go down soon. And this is far enough away now from Blacksburg, we can give you the all clear. Okay, so if you live in the city limits of Blacksburg, you can come out of your shelter. Gaffney was never in a threat for tornadoes, so you're fine. We're going to continue to watch how this particular signature moves in the next few minutes. But I would imagine here we're just going to stay with this until the top of the hour, since we've been with you here. Let's check other parts of the line really quickly, Ben. I know that the Weather Service and we also were watching down to the south into parts of Union County. It looks like we have some pretty strong wind approaching Union. So let's maybe query the orangey looking colors there. I imagine those are about winds of over 70 miles per hour as well, 69. So we have some pockets of stronger wind now approaching the city of Union as well. But the most pressing concern, Ben, still is in Cherokee County with that tornado warning.
Absolutely, which is about to move out of our viewing area. But in addition to that tornado warning, the National Weather Service also issued a severe thunderstorm warning. So you see there is a tornado warning within the severe thunderstorm warning. That's because that specific part of the line of damaging winds showed rotational characteristics. So those warnings are both warranted, because notice outside of the red box where the tornado warning is, there's still a very, very substantial amount of damaging wind. All those bright tan colors that you see, those bright pink and tan colors you see within the red, those are indicative of some 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. They're not rotating necessarily, but that is still strong wind, and that's why the National Weather Service went ahead and issued a severe thunderstorm warning in a broader area outside of the tornado warning. And this is just about outside of Cherokee County. I would say this part of the cell right here, just to the southeast of Grover, which is also not in our viewing area, this would be where the potential rotation and the tornado would be. And that's what's about to exit our area and move into Charlotte's DMA, which we will then hand off to them. But as you can see, outside of that rotational storm, though, there is still a lot of damaging wind, anywhere from about Cleveland County, the Cleveland-Gaston County line, south to Union County, which this damaging wind has also exited the area. So I would say the line of damaging wind has almost completely exited our viewing area. All of Cherokee County, where that line was encompassing, that is pretty much exited to the east. I don't want to give an official all clear yet, but I feel like we will be able to soon. However, that cannot be said about this Union County. As you can see, this line isn't necessarily straight up and down. This line has been kind of bending a little bit farther to the southeast or the southwest in terms of its orientation. But as you can see, we are not in the clear by any means in Union. As you can see, some damaging wind as we just took a look at that. That was around 70 miles per hour and still is producing close to 70 miles per hour. These are estimated estimated wind speeds from radar, excuse me. So Union, I would say you are most urgent at this point, because the tornadic part of the storm has pretty much exited Cherokee County. So that tornado warning is officially in effect until 4 o'clock. But again, that threat will pretty much cease to exist in Cherokee County, Isaac.
That's good. Yeah, we want to get these storms out of here as quickly as possible. And we were watching that little segment, and Ben mentioned it's on the county line now, so we can clear Cherokee County soon. We're not quite there yet. We also are watching very strong winds now south of Hickory Grove. This is, again, Chester and York counties. So if you know anybody out in this general vicinity, call them and let them know that they have high winds coming. But certainly speaking, we have high winds approaching Union. But again, let's take you in for just a closer look here, just for a few more minutes. We will have this tornado warning in effect for Cherokee County in our area. And it looks like the greatest chance of a tornado now is basically crossing over where Cherokee and Chester and Gaston counties, Ben, all come together. and we'll see this potential signature. You know, your eyes are kind of drawn to it still, where winds are kind of coming out away from the radar faster than they're coming towards, and we get that spin going, and that's what we're watching for potential tornadic development. So again, the newest scan brings this out of Cherokee County. So I don't want to be the one to cancel the tornado warning because I don't have the authority to do that. But in a matter of minutes, Cherokee County, we can give you an all clear fully from this particular tornado warning. But again, if you live very close to the county line of Cherokee and Chester counties, we don't want you to fool around with this. As a course of least regret, to play it safe, we still want you sheltered for a couple of more minutes. We'll wait one more scan, and then we can give you the all clear probably. Good news is that, Ben, these winds look a little more diffuse. It doesn't look as focused heading into Union, so hopefully the winds have come down some for the city of Union, but they still look sort of strong right in through here, so we certainly don't want anybody traveling on 176 from Spartanburg to Union because of the active weather moving through there. But Lockhart and Carlisle also in the path of these strong winds as well. So let's take you for a wide view really quickly before we go back in and check on Cherokee County here in a second. We'll also take a look at the southern upstate, but I just want to show you the wide view with the radar and show you that we are almost done with this line of storms. And they were in and they were out very quickly. But you can see that back behind this line, if we can switch maybe Ben over to the radar product, and just show you that there's a lot of lightning here, yes, but we have some light rain falling in Greenville, some moderate rain in Spartanburg. It's not severe. Anderson, all clear. All of northeast Georgia now, with the exception of the southern tip of Elbert County, all clear. And looks like most of western North Carolina, all clear as well. You can see this big Boeing segment kind of taking the rest of the energy away from North Carolina. So Ben has drawn on this red circle, and if you live in the red circle, in this case, red is good because we have an all clear for severe weather there. So no more severe weather problems for Greenville, for Spartanburg, for Clemson, Easley, Seneca, Anderson, Toccoa, Asheville, Hendersonville, Brevard, Marion. We're all clear here. So this is some fantastic news. We don't expect any major redevelopment later tonight because this line of storms worked over our air mass pretty well. And when we say worked over, they took the energy away. So I hope, Ben, that is a cancellation of a tornado warning for Cherokee County. If not, we will, of course, continue to stay with you here. But they might have issued another one for Union County, but I don't think that that's the case either. We're just kind of watching things closely. Yes, so they actually did continue the tornado warning for Cherokee County just a little bit longer. So until 4:15 officially, a tornado warning continues for Cherokee County, and I'm talking about the far eastern square mile of the county. And Ben's throwing on a debris tracker, and there was some brief indication of a touchdown in east central Cherokee County. I didn't have time to fully examine it to see if it matched exactly, but maybe we can back this radar up just a smidge, Ben, and take a look and just kind of see. Maybe right in through there, there would have been a minimum, but if you were watching our Seneca coverage, we had that big, it was no doubt about it. This looks a little noisy to me, so I don't want to identify it as a debris signature when there's not pressing evidence that there is one happening. So let's go back to the velocity product here and just show you that the winds are pressing east of Cherokee County, but officially the tornado warning is still in effect for Cherokee County. So again, I know that the bulk of the signature here is east, but Cherokee County juts out right there. And again, Weather Service is great. They're playing it safe in terms of keeping, I believe that was Battleground Drive, that road right there in the farthest northeastern part of the county that you can be in. And if we have any sort of lingering tornado concerns, that would be where it is, because you can see that Bethany in Chester County is certainly in a more better or worse position, I should say, to see a potential tornado develop. And this is moving north and east away from Cherokee County. So again, in just a couple of more minutes, we can give you the all clear in Cherokee County. We have the other issue, Ben, in Greenwood and Abbeville. We still have a potential severe storm here, and it looks like we have some other severe thunderstorm warnings for McCormick County as well. But for our purposes here, we have a potential severe storm moving through the Abbeville area now to the east at about 40 miles per hour. And again, the severe thunderstorm warning continues for Greenwood and for Abbeville counties until 4:30 this afternoon. So that's another 45 minutes or so. This storm capable of some hail and high winds. This storm does not look particularly tornadic at the moment, but we do see some broad rotation potentially, Ben, showing up a little east of Abbeville. So that's, of course, something that we'll watch. We have just enough wind shear in the atmosphere today to allow for a brief spin up. We don't have the crazy shear we had on Easter. This is a marginal type tornado setup at best. And again, I don't expect any major touchdown tornado problem issues with this. I do see some hail potential with the storm in Abbeville, and I see still some potential hail out in parts of southern Elbert County as well, in the far southern part of the county close to Calhoun Falls and Mount Carmel, which is into Edgefield County, I believe, Ben.
Yes, that's correct. So hail would be the most possible in Elbert and Abbeville counties, where you see these dark red shades, and that's where the hail would be most likely, as I just said. Not as high of a likelihood of hail in these wind-producing thunderstorms, but as you can see, those are still just trying to move out of the northeastern tip of Cherokee County. I believe we have footage of a tree down, and confirm to me where this is again. I believe it is Travelers Rest, yes, northern Greenville County. This is when the thunderstorms moved through there about an hour ago or so, and those were showing signs of damaging winds on the radar. And as you can see, there is definitely ground confirmation that these have knocked down a couple of trees. As we've been saying, these are some pretty impressive winds that were being detected on radar, and with the ground being so saturated from multiple inches of rain, 5 to 7, in some cases more than that, inches of rain, it becomes all the more easy to do that. So a tree down in Travelers Rest, that's where you're looking at right now, and we'll continue to monitor any other damage reports that we may get this afternoon. But the fortunate thing is we're almost done with this line of thunderstorms in Cherokee County. The tornado warning was officially extended until 4:15. National Weather Service playing it safe, as they're always very good at. We appreciate that. But northeastern tip of Cherokee County may be hunkered down for another 10-15 more minutes, perhaps, Isaac.
Yeah, Ben. And where was that camera shot?
TR.
TR. Okay. So we had some potential damage from this same line of storms back in TR. And again, we're coming up on 4 o'clock. So I guess what we'll do is just stay with it until the newscast starts at the top of the hour. We've been with you for the last hour and 20 minutes or so. And again, the greatest chance of a tornado is clearly outside of Cherokee County now. So, and it's actually nearing the edge of their tornado warning polygon to start with. And you can see that just the eastern tip of the county is still in this warning, but the main signature of that potential tornado now is miles and miles east of Cherokee County. So again, for formal purposes, a warning is still in effect. So I'm just telling you, the greatest chance of a tornado now is well east of Cherokee County. Let's check on Union. Looks like we've got stronger winds again showing up east of the city of Union toward Lockhart and Carlisle. So maybe we can query some of these winds. We've queried them all day, and they've been running 60 to 70 miles per hour. And this one is checking in at 76. So perhaps some of the stronger winds we've seen today. But again, it doesn't take a lot of major wind to cause any sort of major issues out there. And it looks like certainly east of the city of Union will be in store for some stronger winds. So if you live in Carlisle or Lockhart, which is just behind our banner there, along the York County line, I would consider going to shelter because, it's not a widespread issue, but it's a focused area of stronger wind potential moving through. So Ben's putting a track on that as well, and looks like Baton Rouge and Gale Mill in York County will be in the path of that particular core of stronger wind. So up to the north, Ben, again, the reason we stayed with you here, of course, is for a tornado warning for Cherokee County, but the strongest part of the signature is well east of the city of the county of Cherokee County. So the greatest chance of a tornado now is firmly into Gaston County, just a little south of Gastonia. So that is certainly a Charlotte metro problem now. But maybe back to the west, Ben, we'll see how the rest of the Greenwood and Abbeville County storms are doing. And it looks like, some stronger activity, yes, but I don't see anything to support extremely large hail or extremely high winds at this point. But certainly speaking, we'll just watch the velocities closely because, again, this environment bend supports the potential for another brief spin up.
That's right. That's right. This line is definitely collapsing, but you have to remember, while the storms on the north side of the line are producing the damaging winds, it's more likely that these storms on the south side are a little bit more, open to, inflow, which would open the threat for hail. And that's exactly what we have on our hail tracker. Notice we've still got some decent hail cores with these storms, one right over the city of Abbeville. So hail up to the size of quarters is certainly possible, as well as on the south side, southeast side, I should say, of Elbert County. That's where we could have some damaging wind gusts, and then the wind threat is farther north and just moving out of Cherokee County, and looks like it is bowed out a little bit more. But we're still awaiting word from the National Weather Service if they will cancel the tornado warning for Cherokee County.
Yeah, and they actually just did. So cool. For those in the back, for our digital team, for everybody in the building, Cherokee County has been formally removed from the tornado warning. So there is no more tornado warning for Cherokee County. What we do have is still a severe thunderstorm warning for basically areas and along in advance of this line. You can just see kind of that spin. I'm not going to bore you with more science, but that I suspect something probably happened around Blacksburg, and that little tornado warning is still south of Gastonia, moving right towards Charlotte. So certainly Charlotte will have their own issues shortly. Certainly another area of concern is for far eastern Union County. That's another Boeing segment moving through with some stronger wind potential there. It looks like we could see winds of up to 60 miles per hour in that particular instance. It also looks like the Weather Service in Columbia has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Newberry County until 4:45, and then we also have a separate area of stronger weather developing on the southern part of Abbeville County, far western Greenwood County, and basically, again, when we started this coverage at 2:30, they were basically issuing severe thunderstorm warnings for areas along and in advance of this line, and that's what we're seemingly back to this afternoon, is that anywhere along this line and in advance of it, we could see some strong to severe storms in terms of some gusty wind. And Ben's actually probably going to be updating a couple of graphics for us, so I'll just kind of stay with you right here, and I'll drive the radar as well, and I'll just kind of show you what we're watching in parts of Union County. Again, I think that's where the best chance for stronger winds will continue here. I'll query some of these, and you can see that they're still running at about 70 miles per hour. So in and around the city of Carlisle and Lockhart. So these are now pressing east of Union. The strongest wind in Union County is east of the city, and it's basically approaching the Chester and York County line. So anywhere around Lockhart and Carlisle still should be on guard for some stronger wind potential, because we've seen these brighter colors all afternoon produce some wind damage, and we're starting to hear of some additional damage across the upstate, and we'll be hearing from some of our news crews here in the next about 10 minutes or so. We're less than 10 minutes away from our newscast, and as we look farther down the line, the good news here is that I don't see any major rotation with the storms down in Greenwood. So here in the next few minutes, of course, we will continue to track everything on the 4 o'clock news. But if you're just joining us, we have had this major line of storms kind of roll on through here. It started back in North Georgia, and it just kind of developed into a pretty big line as it moved on through. There are still severe thunderstorm watches in effect, but there actually have been a few more counties removed from that severe thunderstorm watch, and I will try and get that pulled up for you.
Including Greenville and Spartanburg.
Okay, so they have cleared it from those counties?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's taking a little while to update in our system here, but the severe thunderstorm watch for Greenville and Spartanburg counties has been canceled. So that's some good news. And we just want to continue to watch things closely for you. Again, it looks like the Weather Service has gone with a severe thunderstorm warning, probably with tornado possible for Charlotte Metro. So for Mecklenburg County there, it looks like, they actually just issued a new tornado warning for Charlotte. So bad news for them, good news for us. This is outside of our television market, but again, now the core of Mecklenburg County there in a tornado warning, and this is the same storm that moved through Cherokee County and prompted a tornado warning for areas near Blacksburg. So as we kind of get ready to start our 4 o'clock news here, I just want to recap what we've seen so far, what we're still watching, and then we'll start to kind of see what damage has occurred as this line has moved through. So again, 3:54, and we're just about 4 minutes away. And guys, if you can count me down in the back, just to know when to pitch to Cody or whatever. But Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, tornado warning. And then this line of storms comes down into far eastern Union County, and then it becomes a little disorganized for Lawrence. And that's good. It doesn't appear actually any of Lawrence County is in a warning at the moment. So that's some good news. The line just looks a little scraggly there. And then it looks a little stronger into parts of Greenwood, Abbeville, and then into McCormick County, into the western Midlands there. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Abbeville and Greenwood counties until 4:15. It looks like some very large hail, or at least some large hail. Very large, probably a stretch. So quarter-sized hail, certainly a possibility. With that storm now, as it's moving down basically Highway 72 from Abbeville over to Greenwood. And again, just want to point out, Spartanburg, all clear. Greenville, all clear. It's not even raining anymore in Clemson and Anderson. That's good news. But we're still looking at some residual rain in and around Spartanburg, and certainly we don't want to see any more rain after this week. But Ben's showing that there's a hail core there showing up just almost exactly between Abbeville and Greenwood. So with that particular thunderstorm, we could be seeing some larger hail up to about quarter size as it nears the county line, right on 72, heading toward the city of Greenwood. You can see Lawrence County, very little eye-catching things happening, so that's good. We don't see any hail potential in Lawrence County. We see a little bit of a hail core trying to get going there east of Union, but relative to what we have seen today, this does not look overly impressive. The main concern for eastern Union County would be for strong straight line winds that we have certainly had our fair share of here. So again, you can see these two pockets of stronger wind now almost crossing over into Chester and York County. And of course, that same storm that moved through Cherokee County is now prompting a tornado warning for the Charlotte metro area and points back to the west. So it looks like southern Gaston and Meck County here in the tornado warning until 4:30 or 4:45. But the good news here is that we are clearing counties from severe weather. We're clearing counties from severe thunderstorm watches. So again, if you're just joining us, I want to remind you that this is most likely it for the rest of the night in terms of severe weather. We were actually highlighting a time frame from about 2 to 6 p.m., but it certainly looks like that this will be out of here way before 6 p.m. So you can go about your Friday night without any weather concerns, it looks like. We always will watch things and see if they can recharge and redevelop, but at this point, that looks highly unlikely, at this point. So again, tornado warning now for Gaston and Mecklenburg counties. That's, of course, for Charlotte. There are no tornado warnings for our viewing area. I want to reemphasize that. We've been with you now for almost an hour and a half, and we've only had one tornado warning, but we've had many, many severe thunderstorm warnings, and now we are starting to hear of some potential damage from those severe storms moving through. So again, pockets of strong wind crossing over the county line from Union into Chester and York County. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for Newberry County, and then we still have a lingering severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Abbeville and Greenwood counties, and we'll see if that gets extended. The storm still looks fairly strong and healthy with that hail core, so at the very least I expect another severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Greenwood County. But in terms of another tornado warning, that is highly unlikely to happen in our area. So that's good news. Basically, the ingredients down here are not as favorable as the ingredients up by Charlotte, and we can be thankful for that. You can see not much happening down here, very weak winds as it is. Maybe, Ben, if you can slide the radar down to where it auto switches over to Columbia. I think Columbia's radar actually, in terms of the position, has a better view into that storm, and so we can see about what the winds are doing there, because the GSP radar won't be able to pick those up as well. But for Greenwood down to far southern Abbeville County, we certainly have a potential for some stronger winds, and you can just see red and green are together, yes, but this is more of a convergent axis, so I don't really see any sort of spin-up tornado potential here. No threat for a tornado at the moment for the city of Greenwood. But you can see Chapel's up to Newberry in a severe thunderstorm warning, yes, but no active tornado warnings are in effect here at the moment. And I don't expect any more to be issued today for our viewing area, so that's, you know, some encouragement as well. But if you live in Kirksey or south and east of Greenwood and you hadn't seen any severe weather yet, there is a stronger storm that's on the way. And you can see where that yellow stops, and we could see them reissue a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of eastern Greenwood County. So maybe, Ben, let's bring the radar back full and just throw on the radar data maybe in a looping mode just to show you that we're almost there in terms of severe weather threats ending. You can see that the Charlotte metro area is certainly dealing with plenty of active weather now, but our southern counties, so we're not going to ignore you in Greenwood County as well as Newberry County. So we'll continue to watch things very closely. We have our news crews out and about kind of seeing what damage, if any, has occurred. And Ben and I will continue to bring you team weather coverage throughout the afternoon as the 4 o'clock news starts right now.
And we begin with that breaking news. We are getting reports of damage across the area, mainly trees down. We know at least one tree down on a home in Travelers Rest. We'll get to that in just a moment. But right now, we do want to bring in our entire team. Of course, Tori is social distancing at home. We have our team here. Isaac Williams, Ben Dornbach have been on the air. Now, I know, Tori, you're off over on Woodruff Road. What are you seeing over there?
Yeah, probably within the last half an hour, that large, strong storm with winds and rain. My lights flickered a little bit. We do know that there are some power outages happening, but I do have power right now. And things have cleared out over here on Woodruff and 85. So I'm not sure if anyone in this area is specifically out of power, but where I'm at, I'm okay right now.
All right, let's get over to now Isaac Williams and Ben Dornbach. We'll start with Isaac there. You see Radar 3D behind you. So, Isaac, a lot of this pushing out of our area right now, correct?
That's some good news, yeah, Cody. We are still watching a few lingering issues, and then we'll pitch it over to Ben to kind of see why these things are happening as they are and look ahead to the rest of the evening. So, right now, I just want to show you that we have a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Newberry County, for parts of Greenwood County until about 4:15, and we also have a severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning for the Charlotte metro region. Thankfully, this has now moved east of our region, but we are still seeing a few leftover lightning strikes. So Ben made this point earlier. If you're trying to get out and see, you know, what maybe has happened and you're still hearing some thunder, even though it may not even be raining anymore, you're still close enough to be impacted or struck by lightning, so we don't want that to happen to you. We're watching this line of storms closely. Certainly the greatest concern is for Charlotte at this point. We're going to watch the southern counties closely for parts of Greenwood, Newberry, maybe Abbeville County for an additional brief spin up, but I think the chances of a major tornado warning again happening, Ben, are low because the main system looks like you're tracking that, and it is to our north.
That's right, Isaac. We have a couple of bow echoes farther to the west over parts of Arkansas and Missouri. Those continue moving east. We're also monitoring some pop-up thunderstorm development around the Atlanta metro area. It looks like this boundary is setting up a little bit farther to the southeast. And when I show you temperatures, it's going to become increasingly clear where this boundary has set up with this front grudging to the east. So I would be very surprised if we had any active alerts by the conclusion of the 5 o'clock newscast. So once the line moves through, we should be done for the evening. But there could be perhaps a stray shower or a storm in our southernmost areas later this evening, but safe to say our atmosphere will have been worked over to the point where we wouldn't be as capable of strengthening thunderstorms. So looking at Futurecast, as you can see, here's a look at 5 o'clock, looking pretty good in terms of initialization. You can see the lingering thunderstorms, while still on the strong to severe side, will be making their last push out of the area. So Greenwood, Newberry, Abbeville, Union counties, still about an hour or two left with your severe thunderstorm threat. But as you can see, 6 o'clock, maybe still a leftover thunderstorm around Newberry County, but I'm thinking 6 o'clock should be a pretty solid cutoff time for our severe threat this evening. But we're not done with thunderstorms yet. While we don't have as organized of a threat of severe weather tomorrow, we don't really even have a formal threat from the Storm Prediction Center for severe weather for this weekend, but that could obviously change. It's going to be pretty much your typical summertime forecast this Memorial Day weekend. So looking ahead to Saturday, there will likely be some pop-up thunderstorms that form in the mountains, and eventually a couple of those will likely move move into the upstate. Not going to be an organized threat, but still, as we all know in the summertime, some of those storms with the right ingredients can sometimes get on the strong side. As you can see, this model doesn't have that many of those storms making it from the mountains into the upstate, but I think a couple will. So again, a pretty standard as it gets a summertime forecast for our Saturday, and that's likely going to hold true on Sunday too, if not maybe a little more coverage with those thunderstorms by Sunday. Also want to show you our temperatures, what I was talking about with that front. If you look farther to the south, look at Newberry posting a temperature of 81 degrees, but as you can see, areas north that have already gotten rain in the 60s. So that boundary pushing farther south, and that's when those storms will eventually move southeast of our area. Again, about an hour or two left with the threat in our southern and easternmost areas, and we'll continue to track these throughout the next couple of hours. Cody?
All right, thanks so much. We are keeping an eye on traffic, and of course, when it rains, people tend to have a problem driving. In Anderson County, we have a stalled out vehicle on Highway 76 at I-85 around 19A and 19B. We also had a report of a semi having to go into the median because of a downed tree at that exit, so be careful there.